Hello everyone, welcome back to Sulekha Physics classes. It is the most easiest way to learn all the concept of physics through this class. Hope you all are doing well. Today I am going to start one short revision of chapter 7, that is alternating current. In this chapter there are many important topics like RMS value or root mean square value of alternating current or voltage, what happens when alternating current passes through a resistor, inductor or capacitor, or when it passes through the combination of these three, it means LCR circuit. After that we will discuss important topic, that is sharpness of resonance and quality factor. Then last, transformer and generator, and all these topics are important, right? So I will discuss each topic one by one. So today I am using this green board instead of white board due to some reason, but hope it doesn't matter which type of board I am using. So let us start. Quick revision of this chapter, alternating current. Up to this chapter, we had discussed about direct current. Direct current means those current whose magnitude remains constant with time. It does not change with time, right? It flows in one direction only. It means direct current means unidirectional current, right? But in this chapter, alternating current is what? Those current whose magnitude changes with time and also direction reverses periodically. After one period, its direction reverses, right? So this is direct current. It means this along x-axis time is there, along y-axis current is there. So current remain constant with time. It does not changes with time. But this is graph for alternating current. Its values changes with time and also direction reverses periodically, right? This direct current is produced by battery or cell. That is the source of direct current, and we know how direct current is produced. In this chapter, our main aim is focus on alternating current, right? So first you define alternating current, those current whose magnitude changes with time. This is time, and its magnitude first increases, then decreases, then increases reverse order, then again decreases, right? So its magnitude changes with time and also its direction. Here this is a positive half cycle, then again its direction reverses, and this direction reverses periodically, right now, whose direction reverses periodically. This type of current is called alternating current. During its motion, there is one maximum value of current, I naught. This value is called peak value, and every time, at this time current is different, at this time current is different, at this time current is different. So this value of current is called instantaneous value of alternating current. An equation for this alternating current, instantaneous value of current, is given by I equal to I naught sine omega t. What is this I naught? I naught is peak value of current or maximum value of current, or you can say current amplitude, right? It is maximum value attained by the alternating current. And what is this I? I is instantaneous value of current at any instant of time, and this is given by this relation. So equation for instantaneous current is also always represented by I equal to I naught sine omega t. What is this omega here? Omega is angular velocity, right? This positive and negative cycle makes one complete cycle, and time taken by an alternating current to complete one cycle is called time period, is represented by capital T, and it covers distance in T time period 2 pi angles. Total distance is 2 pi, right now. So time period is equal to 2 pi by omega is angular velocity. This is the formula for time period. Time taken by a AC to complete one cycle. And what is this omega? Omega is angular frequency, and it becomes omega equal to 2 pi by t, and 1 by t is what? 1 by t is frequency, number of cycles in 1 second. How many number of cycles completed by AC in 1 second? That is called its frequency, and this frequency is 1 by t. So you can write omega equal to 2 pi 1 by t in place of 1 by t you write nu. Nu is frequency. So omega becomes 2 pi nu. This nu is frequency of AC. And you know, in case of direct current, there is no change in frequency. It remains constant with time now. So there is no frequency. For direct current, frequency is always 0. Right? Also, equation for alternating voltage will be represented by E equal to E naught sine omega t, right, where E naught is the maximum value of alternating voltage, and this E naught is equal to I naught by R, right. This is equation for alternating voltage, and this one is equation for alternating current. Okay, and symbol for alternating current is this one. This one is symbol, right. This is symbol for alternating current. So you must remember equation for alternating current, we use I equal to I naught sine omega t, and equation for alternating voltage we use E equal to E naught sine omega t, where omega is angular velocity, or you can say if you write in terms of frequency, so it is angular frequency. Okay, please take a screenshot of this one. After this we will discuss root mean square velocity. Now next one is root mean square or virtual value of AC, or you can write effective value of AC. All three are same: RMS value, virtual value, or effective value of AC. What is this RMS value of current? This topic is very important. You must know definition of this RMS value of AC and what is the expression for it. You know, in case of AC, what happens? Total current over one complete cycle, this is 0 and this one is T, time taken by AC to complete one complete cycle is capital T, right? And over one complete cycle, average or mean value is always 0. So to discuss current in alternating circuits, we always take root mean square value of AC, because average or mean value of current over one complete cycle is always 0. So we do not take average or mean value. We always discuss about root mean square or virtual or effective value of AC. What is this? Okay, it will be more clear with the help of this diagram, right? Suppose this one is a DC source and this one is one external resistance, and current passes through this resistor R. And suppose this one is AC source, right? Again some current passes through this resistor R in same time T. Now what is its definition? It is that value of direct current which produces the same heating effect in a given resistor. When current passes through this resistor, it produces some heating effect. So it is that value of direct current which produces same heating effect in a given resistor as is produced by a given alternating source when passed for the same time, right? In same time, how much heating effect produced by this DC source, that value is called RMS value of current. And it also produces the same heating effect when that current passes through this resistor in same time T. So you have to find the expression for that RMS value of current. So first you have to calculate when some current, alternating current passes through this resistor, then how much heat is produced. That heat is always equal to that this RMS value of current when passes through this resistor. So you have to calculate heating effect in both the cases and just compare it. You get the value of IRMS, right? Suppose I equal to I naught sine omega bit T be the current passes through this resistor R. Now heating effect, heat produced when passes through this resistor R in a small time dt is dH equal to I square R dt. Now total heat produced for one complete cycle is H equal to integration of dH over 0 to T. For one complete cycle, you put the value of dH, I square R dt. Now what is I? Instantaneous value of current, I naught sine omega t. You just put the value of I here. You take I naught square R outside, inside the integral only sin square omega t is left. Now you just break this sin square omega t in terms of this cos. What is the formula for sin square theta? 1 minus cos 2 theta by 2. So this sin square omega t becomes 1 minus cos 2 omega t by 2. Okay, and just separate these two terms. You take 2 outsides, the integration of dt minus this cos 2 omega t. Now integration of this dt is t over limits 0 to t. Again integration of this cos 2 omega t sin 2 omega t with t, 2 omega is there, it is comes in the denominator 0 to t. Now over one complete cycle 0 to t, the value of this one is 0, and when you put the limits here you get t minus 0, it means only t. Now this much amount of heat is produced in this circuit when passed through for one complete cycle, I naught square RT by 2. Now the same amount of heat in the same time produced by this direct source, and that current is called IRMS. Let us suppose IRMS current flows through this circuit. Now it also produces the heating effect, H equal to I square RMS RT, right? First you take a screenshot of this one, then I will rub some parts. Okay. Now hope you have taken the screenshot. May I rub this one? Okay. Okay. After this, let us suppose that IRMS flows through this circuit. Then let IRMS flows through a resistor R. Then how much heat is produced? Heat produced is given by H equal to I square RMS RT over one complete cycle. Right now, this one is equation number 2. So this one is when IRMS flows through this direct source through resistor R in one complete cycle, it means in time t it produces heating effect I square RT. And when AC current passes through this resistor R in same time t, it produces heating effect H equal to I naught square RT by 2, where I naught is peak value of current. Now these two heating effects are same. So from 1 and 2, this I square RMS equal to I naught square by 2, or you can write IRMS equal to I naught by root 2. This is the expression for RMS value of current, right? I naught by root 2. I naught is peak value of current. And when you put the value of root 2, it just becomes 0.707. 707 I naught. Or you can write 70%, 70.7% of I naught. So this is the RMS value of current. This formula is very important. What is the relation between IRMS and peak value? And in case of AC circuit, we always measure IRMS, root mean square or effective value of alternating current, because over one complete cycle average value of current is always 0. So you always remember this formula, IRMS equal to I naught by root 2 or 0.707 I naught, right? Okay. One more thing, this one is IRMS. If you want to write ERMS, then ERMS you can also write in this way, E naught by root 2, right? Here again this is equal to 0.707 E naught or 70.7% of E naught. This is the RMS value of current. This one is RMS value of voltage. So you must know how to derive this RMS value of current, because this topic is important. You write from this one, you calculate the heating effect of this when passes through this alternating source, passes through this resistor in same time, or also heating effect produced by this when IRMS passes through a resistor R, and you compare these two equations, you get IRMS equal to I naught by root 2. Hope it's clear to all of you. Please take a screenshot of this one. Then we will move to the next topic. What happens when AC passes through resistor, inductor or capacitor? Now, before discussing what happens when AC passes through resistor, capacitor, inductor, you must know about phasor and phasor diagram. You know current and voltage is scalar quantity, but in case of alternating current and alternating voltage, these quantities are represented by a rotating vector which moves with constant angular velocity omega, and that rotating vector is called phasor. Here alternating current and voltage are represented by rotating vector which moves with constant angular velocity omega. Suppose this is a rotating vector and it moves with angular velocity omega. This rotating vector represents alternating current or voltage at any instant of time. Then what is this phasor diagram? Phasor diagram is nothing but alternating current and voltage both have same frequency, right? Is represented as rotating vector like this one, or you can say phasor, along with proper phase angle between them. Both vectors, alternating current or alternating voltage, have some phase angle. So in that one, along with this phasor or rotating vector, they must have a proper phase angle between them. Let us suppose I am going to represent this alternating voltage and current with the help of this phasor diagram, right? Suppose, right, this side, let's take I or V voltage. Both is represented along y-axis, right? And this side is time, right? With time t, suppose here E is what? E naught sine omega t. This is alternating voltage. So here peak value of this alternating voltage at any time is what? E naught. This peak value is represented by a rotating vector, this one. This represents E naught, right? This is the magnitude of E naught, right? And its phase is what? Omega t with this x-axis. So this angle is omega t, and this vector E naught rotates with angular frequency, or you can say angular velocity omega, and this alternating voltage, this is the peak value. This vector represents the peak magnitude of peak value, right? And if you want to find alternating voltage at any instant of time, just draw its projection, right? So this represents alternating voltage at any instant of time, E equal to E naught sine omega t, right? So this is phasor diagram of this quantity E equal to E naught sine omega t. Now I equal to I naught sine omega t. It is also represented in this phasor diagram, but the angle between this is omega t and this one is omega t plus phi. So its magnitude peak value is I naught. So you draw one, I am drawing with white chalk. You draw one rotating vector I naught, right? And its angle is what? Omega t plus phi. It means phase difference between this I naught, I and E is what? Phase difference between these two is subtract omega t plus phi minus omega t, you get phi. Phi is the phase difference between these two quantities, alternating current and alternating voltage. So this represents I naught. Here total phase angle of this current is omega t plus phi, and at any instant of time this projection gives alternating current at any instant of time, and these two vectors rotates with angular velocity omega. So this is phasor diagram of alternating current and voltage, and it is very helpful when you discuss alternating current through resistor, inductor, capacitor and LCR circuit. So you must know about phasor diagram. Alternating current and voltage are represented with the help of rotating vector, that is called phasor, with some which moves with angular velocity omega, right? So this is phasor diagram. Please take a screenshot of this one. Okay. Now we will discuss AC circuit containing only resistor. What happens when alternating voltage is applied to a circuit containing only resistor R? This is the source of AC and applied voltage at any instant of time is E equal to E naught sin omega t. So E naught sin omega t is the applied voltage at any instant of time through this resistor R, and due to this voltage current flows through this resistor. Then let I be the instantaneous current at any instant of time. Now apply this Kirchhoff's law in this closed loop. By Kirchhoff's law, applied voltage E equal to I current, instantaneous current passes through this resistor R, so I into R. So E equal to I into R. E is what? From equation 1, E naught sin omega t equal to IR. From here, I becomes E naught by R sin omega t, and you take this E naught by R as I naught. I naught is the peak value of alternating current. So here you get equation of current I equal to I naught sin omega t, and here applied EMF is E equal to E naught sin omega t. Here omega t is the phase of this current and voltage at any instant of time, and you find from this equation 1 and 2 both have same phase, omega t and omega t. Both I and E have same phase. It means both have maxima and minima at same time equal amount, right now. So in case of resistor, when AC is passed through a circuit containing resistor only, both voltage and current are in same phase. You must note this point. In case of resistor, both I and E have same phase. Now you have to represent this I and E graphically and also with the help of phasor diagram. So first you draw a diagram for this one, E equal to E naught sin omega t. This side x-axis omega t, and this side you draw E and I, voltage and current. So this one dark, represented by a dark line, is nothing but E equal to E naught sin omega t, and its peak value at any instant of time is E naught. And this I have also same phase omega t. So both have maxima and minima at the same time. Here both current have also minimum value, here also minimum value, here current have maximum value because both have same phase. So this dotted curve represents current at any instant of time. Both current and voltage are in same phase. This is I equal to I naught sin omega t, and this is the peak value of current I naught, right? Now we have already discussed about phasor diagram. Phasor is what? A rotating vector which moves with some angular velocity omega. It always moves in anti-clockwise direction. So how you represent these two quantities with the help of this phasor diagram? First is E equal to E naught sin omega t. So E naught is represented by a rotating vector, this one, with some angle omega t with the x-axis, and this projection on this y-axis gives E. This value is E naught sin omega t, right now. Again, current has also same phase omega t, same phase, so it is also represented along the same line. This one is peak value of current I naught, and its projection gives instantaneous current I at any instant of time. This one is I, right? So in this way you represent with the help of phasor diagram also. You must know how to draw phasor diagram in case of resistor, and then we will discuss next inductor, capacitor. Okay, so please take a screenshot of this one, then move to the next topic. Now next is AC circuit containing inductor only. What happens when alternating current passes through a circuit containing only inductor L? You know, let us suppose that this E equal to E naught sin omega t with the applied voltage, alternating voltage, and due to this alternating current flows through this inductor L. And you had studied in electromagnetic induction chapter that whenever there is a changing current flows through this inductor L, and induced EMF is there, right, whose direction is opposite to the cause which produces it. So induced EMF is given by L di by dt, and its direction is opposite to this one, right? So apply Kirchhoff's law in this one, right? So this is applied voltage E equal to E naught sin omega t minus back EMF induced across this L is L di by dt, and its direction is opposite to this one. So E minus L di by dt equal to 0. So put the value of E is E naught sine omega t equal to L di by dt. You separate di from this equation. Di is E naught by L sine omega t dt. You integrate both sides. After integrating, you get total current I. I is integration of this di, integration of this E naught by L sine omega t dt. E naught by L is constant, you take outside, and integration of this sine omega t is what? Minus cos omega t. And here with t, omega term is there, it comes in the denominator. So integration of sine omega t dt is minus cos omega t by omega, right? Now it becomes minus E naught by omega L cos omega t. Now you have to compare this alternating current I with this equation 1, alternating voltage E. So here sine omega term is there, but here cos omega term. So just you write this cos omega t in terms of sine omega t. Then you know cos theta is what? Sine 90 minus theta. So you write in place of cos omega t sine pi minus omega t. And this minus sine pi minus omega t, you take this negative sign inside this phase, it becomes omega t minus pi by 2. So this becomes E naught by, you write this omega L as XL, sine omega t minus pi by 2. This XL is called inductive reactance. It is the opposition offered by the inductor in this circuit, right? It acts like a resistor, right? So this XL is called inductive reactance. Then this equation becomes I equal to E naught by XL. You write I naught sine omega t minus pi by 2. This becomes equation number 2, where this I naught is what? E naught by XL. It is the peak value of alternating current. So you get the equation of I in terms of sine omega t. Now you compare these two equations 1 and 2. Here sine omega t, here in current omega t minus pi by 2 is there. So there is a phase difference of this omega t and omega t minus pi by 2 in current right now. It means voltage leads the current by an angle pi by 2. So you can write from 1 and 2, voltage leads current by pi by 2, or you can write this current lags this voltage by pi by 2. Okay, so you first take a screenshot of this one, then we draw phasor diagram. Okay, now in case of inductor, you will find that E is what? E naught sine omega t, and I is I naught sine omega t minus pi by 2. The phase difference between alternating voltage and current is how much? Minus pi by 2 is there now. So it means phase difference is pi by 2, 90 degree angle. And which one leads which one? This voltage leads the current by an angle pi by 2, or you can say this current lags the voltage by an angle pi by 2. So you have to represent this in graphically as well as in case of phasor diagram. So graphically this is the graph for alternating voltage right now. E equal to E naught sine omega t, and this one is peak value E naught. I is I naught sine omega t, and it lags by an angle pi by 2 to the voltage. It means starts from here, right? This dotted line represents alternating current I equal to I naught sine omega t minus pi by 2. It means if voltage is maximum, here current is minimum. If voltage is minimum, current is maximum by an angle pi by 2. Here what? Voltage is minimum, so here current is maximum by an angle pi by 2, right? This is graphical representation. Now with the help of phasor diagram, you draw one rotating vector, this one E naught, right? And its projection on y-axis gives E naught sine omega t, right? This is angle omega t. Now I is what? 90 degree lags by with this voltage right now. So this vector represents peak value of current, right? And its projection on y-axis gives alternating current at any instant of time. What is this angle? It lags behind by an angle pi by 2. It means this angle is pi by 2 minus omega t. This is graphical representation and this one is phasor diagram. Current starts from here. It lags behind the voltage by an angle pi by 2. So you must know how to draw phasor diagram right now. In this case, we get one new term, that is inductive reactance, XL. XL is omega L, and you know omega is what? 2 pi by T, it means 2 pi FL. And how you define this inductive reactance? It is opposition offered by inductor to the flow of AC through it, or you can say effective resistance offered by the inductor to the flow of alternating current through it. Now here you find that inductive reactance is directly proportional to what? Frequency. And you know in case of DC, frequency is 0, so XL is also 0. But for AC, frequency changes, so inductive reactance XL is directly proportional to F in case of alternating current. It means what? Inductor allow direct current to pass through it, but it opposes alternating current. Through inductor, alternating current does not pass, only direct current pass through it, right now. Okay, one more thing, if you draw graph between this XL and frequency, you find that this inductive reactance is directly proportional to frequency, then you get a straight line in case of this one inductor, right now. This is the graph between XL and F, and as frequency increases, this inductive reactance also increases, right now. So please take a screenshot of this one. After this, we will move to the next topic. Now next is AC circuit containing only capacitor. What happens when AC input is applied to a circuit containing only capacitor? So this is the applied AC input E equal to E naught sin omega t, equation number 1. And due to charging and discharging of this capacitor plate, and instantaneous alternating current flows through this circuit, right now. And at any instant, potential difference between these plates of the capacitor is equal to the applied voltage. It means this V is equal to this E. V is what? Q by C, you know, and this E is E naught sin omega t. Now here Q equal to E naught C sin omega t. But you want current, relationship between current and voltage. So to get current, you just differentiate this Q with respect to time. It gives current. So dQ by dt it gives I, and here E naught C is constant, you take outside, then d by dt of this sin omega t. And what is differentiation of this sin omega t? Omega cos omega t, right now. So E naught omega C cos omega t. Again here cos omega t is there, but I want this current in terms of sin omega t. So I have to compare it with this voltage equation. So you write this cos theta in terms of sin theta. How you write? Cos omega t is sin 90 plus theta. Na? Sin 90 plus theta is cos theta, and also sin 90 minus theta gives cos theta. But I want this omega positive. That's why I have taken this positive 90 plus theta, right now. And this E naught, you take this omega C in the denominator, you just write 1 by omega C. And this you can write XC. Here again XC is what? Capacitive reactance. It is the resistance or opposition offered by the capacitor in this circuit, right? This one is called capacitive reactance or effective resistance offered by the capacitor. Now this I becomes this E naught by XC. You have to compare this with Ohm's law. This becomes I naught. You can write I naught equal to E naught by XC, where I naught is what? Peak value of current, alternating current. So equation for current becomes I equal to, this becomes I naught sin omega t plus pi by 2. This is equation number 2. Now you compare this voltage equation and this current equation. This one is current and this one is voltage. Here phase is omega 2 and here phase is omega t plus pi by 2. It means this current leads the voltage by an angle pi by 2. Or you can write this voltage lags the current by an angle pi by 2. So you just write one sentence, current leads the voltage by phase pi by 2, or you can write voltage lags the current by an angle pi by 2. In this way, you derive relation between current and voltage in case of capacitor. Please take a screenshot of this one, then we will draw graphical representation and phasor diagram. Okay, now in case of capacitor, alternating voltage is E equal to E naught sin omega t and I equal to I naught sin omega t plus pi by 2. It means here current leads voltage by an angle pi by 2. So how you draw graphically, or this one? So this is the graph for E equal to E naught sin omega t. From where this current starts, it leads voltage by an angle pi by 2. It means when voltage is 0, current is maximum. So current starts from this point. This dotted line represents instantaneous current. When voltage is maximum, current is minimum. When voltage is minimum, current is maximum. Current leads voltage by an angle pi by 2. And this is the peak value of voltage, and this one is peak value of current I naught. In this way, you draw relationship between current and voltage with the help of graph. Right now. Now next is phasor diagram. Here again, this phasor rotating vector represents peak value of alternating voltage na E naught. Here angle is omega t. Now current leads this voltage by an angle pi by 2. It means from here you take angle 90 degree, you draw rotating vector I naught here. This is pi by 2. So total phase angle is what? Omega t plus pi by 2. In this way you draw phasor diagram for capacitor. Right now, here there is one new term, that is capacitive reactance, XC. XC is what? 1 by omega c, and omega is 2 pi f. It means XC becomes 1 by 2 pi FC. What is this capacitive reactance? It is effective resistance offered by the capacitor. You can say opposition offered by capacitor to the flow of AC through it. It acts like a reactance, right? Effective resistance you can say, or opposition offered by capacitor to the flow of AC through it. Here again, here is capacitive reactance is inversely proportional to frequency. In case of inductor, it is directly proportional, but in case of capacitor, it is inversely proportional. For DC, frequency is 0, it means XC is infinity. And for AC, XC is inversely proportional to frequency. It means capacitor allows infinite resistance to the flow of direct current. It means it blocks direct current. It only allows AC to flow through it. How you draw graph between this XC and frequency? XC is inversely proportional to frequency. This side is XC, this side is frequency, and it is inversely proportional. It means it decreases with frequency. So graph is like this one. In this way you draw graph between XC and F. So this is graphical representation. This one is phasor diagram in case of capacitor. Hope you understood. Please take a screenshot of this one. Then we will move to the next topic, that is LCR circuit. Next is series LCR circuit. What happens when alternating voltage is applied to a series LCR circuit? When L, C and R are all connected in series. Here this is an alternating voltage, right? E equal to E naught sin omega t, equation number 1. Then when it is connected to L, C and R, all are connected in series, then instantaneous current flows through L, C and R. Let VL be instant voltage across L, VC be voltage across C, and VR be voltage across R when instantaneous current flows through the circuit. Right? Now you know that what is the relationship between instantaneous current and instantaneous voltage in case of resistor, inductor and capacitor. Okay, na? So first, in case of resistor, in resistor what? I and V both are in same phase. Suppose current is in this direction along x-axis. So potential voltage VR across resistor R is also in same direction because both are in same phase, right? In case of resistor, so I and V are in same direction. In case of inductor, I lags the voltage by pi by 2. It means if I is along x direction, then I lags voltage by angle pi by 2, 90 degree. It means VL is this side upward along y-axis. This side is VL, this side is I, and here is phase difference between these two is 90 degree. And here current lags voltage or voltage leads current by an angle pi by 2. Similarly, in case of capacitor, if I is in this direction, then where is VC? I leads voltage by pi by 2. In case of capacitor, current leads voltage through the capacitor by an angle pi by 2, or you can say this voltage lags current by an angle pi by 2. Both ways you can remember it. Right now, you must remember these things are very important to draw the phasor diagram of series LCR circuit. In case of R, both I and V are in same direction. In case of C, I leads voltage by V 90 degree, and in case of L, I lags voltage by 90 degree, right now. So now I am going to draw phasor diagram of these LC and R circuit right now. So suppose I is along this direction, x direction. So in case of resistor, VR is also in the same direction. So I draw VR here. Now in case of inductor, here VL leads current by an angle pi by 2. So VL is this side, right now. This one is VL, and here VC lags current by an angle pi by 2, so VC is downward. In this way you draw VR, VL, VC, and I is along x direction, right? Now if VL is greater than VC, so this vector represents both are in opposite direction. VL is upward right now and VC is downward. So what is the resultant of these two vectors? VL is greater than VC, it means this one. This represents VL minus VC. So this is VL minus VC and this side is VR. Now using parallelogram law, vector addition, if you apply parallelogram law, then the resultant of these VL minus VC and VR is along the diagonal of the parallelogram. This one. This is the resultant voltage of this VR and VL minus VC. And this resultant voltage is nothing but the applied EMF, right? E. So this E, and suppose it makes angle phi with the x-axis where current is flowing, right now. It makes angle phi. So this side VR, y-axis VL minus VC, then apply using Pythagoras theorem, this E square is equal to VR square plus VL minus VC whole square. So you can write applied EMF E, it means resultant of these two voltages E is equal to under root VL minus VC whole square plus VR square. You write in place of VL, what is VL? VL is IXL, right now. VC is IXC and VR is IR. So you put these values in place of VL, IXL, in place of VC, IXC and VR, IR, where XL and XC are inductive reactance and capacitive reactance. Right now it is a position offered by the inductor and capacitor to the flow of AC. So in all the cases I square is common. Here also in these two also you take I outside, so I square is common, and when I square comes outside the square root it becomes I. So E equal to I under root XL minus XC whole square plus R square. You get this equation, resultant EMF E. Right now after this, what is I? I becomes E by this one. Okay, first you take a screenshot of this one. Okay, after this E equal to this one, I into this, from here I becomes E by under root XL minus XC whole square plus R square. Now you compare this equation with Ohm's law, I equal to E by R. It means this denominator term, whole term, acts like a effective resistance of the circuit, and this term is called impedance. It is represented by Z. Z is equal to under root XL minus XC whole square plus R square, and this Z is called impedance. Impedance means effective resistance offered by series LCR circuit, right? So in case of LCR circuit, you get equation of I, this one. I is E by under root XL minus XC whole square plus R square. Now from the phasor diagram, you find that I is along this one, this side, X direction, VR is also along this direction, and VL minus BC is along this direction, and the resultant is along this direction. It makes angle phi with the x-axis, right now. So this phi is nothing but it gives direction of resultant voltage. So from phasor diagram, it shows that applied voltage leads the current by an angle phi. Here resultant voltage is along this direction, it leads the instantaneous current by an angle phi. Now what is the value of this phi? Okay, here from this triangle you find the direction of resultant voltage, right? Okay, may I rub this one? Okay. So here direction of phi or direction of resultant voltage. It makes angle phi and leads the current by an angle phi. So from here in this diagram, tan phi is equal to VL minus VC by VR. VR, right now, or in terms of reactance also you can write VL is what? IXL, VC is what? IXC, and VR is what? IR. So after putting these values, you get tan phi equal to XL minus XC by R. Right now, I is common in numerator and denominator, it just cancel each other. So this is the direction of resulting voltage. Tan phi is VL minus VC by VR, and in this case resultant voltage leads current by an angle phi. Now there are different cases. First to take a screenshot of this one, then I will discuss that different cases. Now after getting direction of resultant voltage, that is tan phi equal to VL minus VC by VR, or in terms of XL minus XC by R, there are different special cases, right? In which case the LCR circuit behaves like purely resistive, purely capacitive, or purely inductive. So one by one we'll discuss all the cases. First case, when XL greater than XC, or you can write VL greater than VC. If in this equation, if VL greater than VC or XL greater than XC, it means tan phi is positive. Here tan phi becomes positive, and from this phasor diagram, if tan phi is positive, it means voltage leads current, right now, and in which case voltage leads current? Inductor. So when XL greater than XC, voltage leads the current and the series LCR circuit becomes purely inductive circuit. In this case, the LCR circuit behaves like pure inductive circuit, right? When VL greater than VC or XL greater than XC. Now second case, when VL less than VC, or you can write XL less than XC. In this case, from this equation, tan phi becomes, when this VL is less than VC, tan phi becomes negative, and tan phi becomes negative means angle is this side, and resultant voltage is along this direction. And it's clearly that when tan phi is negative, it means current leads voltage, right now. So in this case, current I leads voltage, and it becomes capacitive circuit, because in which case current leads voltage? In case of capacitor. So in that case, circuit behaves like a purely capacitive circuit, right? Now in third case, when XL is equal to XC or VL equal to VC. In that case, tan phi is 0. Tan phi 0 means here angle is 0 means resultant voltage is along current direction. It means voltage and current both are in same phase. And in which case it is in same phase? Resistor. So V and I are in same phase and circuit becomes purely resistive circuit. In this way, you can discuss all three cases. When XL greater than XC, it becomes inductive circuit. When XL less than XC, it behaves like a purely capacitive circuit. And when XL equal to XC, it behaves like a pure resistive circuit, right? So hope you understood this one. LCR circuit is very important. You draw phasor diagram very neat and clean in case of LCR circuit, and then find resultant voltage, the direction of resultant voltage, and then you have to discuss special cases, right? In which case it behaves like what, right? So please take a screenshot of this one. After this, we'll move to one more important topic, that is resonance, series resonance circuit. Next is resonance condition of a series LCR circuit. What is this resonance condition? Okay, you know in case of LCR circuit, I is what? I equal to E by under root R square plus XL minus XC whole square. And this whole term is represented by letter Z, and Z is called impedance. Impedance of the circuit is given by under root R square plus XL minus XC whole square, and it is the effective resistance offered by the series LCR circuit, right? Now what happens when XL equal to XC? In that case, Z becomes under root R square plus XL equal to XC. It means 0. It means Z equal to R. Z equal to R means impedance in the series LCR circuit is only due to resistance. Okay, there is no role played by L and C when XL equal to XC. Total impedance in the circuit is only due to resistance, and if the circuit is purely resistive, in that case current and voltage are in the same phase. So when XL equal to XC, Z becomes R. It means Z is minimum, and you know I is what? E by Z. When Z is minimum, then current in the circuit becomes maximum. Okay, I max, or you can say I naught, and this is given by E naught E by Z. But when Z is minimum, in that case the value of Z becomes R. So I maximum or I naught becomes E by R, and this condition is called resonance condition, when current in the circuit becomes maximum. How you define this resonance condition? A series LCR circuit is said to be in resonance condition when the current in the circuit becomes maximum. This condition is called resonance condition. At this condition, what is the frequency of the circuit? So when XL equal to XC, you know XL is what? Omega L. XC is what? 1 by omega C. So from here, omega square equal to 1 by LC, or omega equal to 1 by root over LC. This is angular frequency, and omega is what? 2 pi F. So from here, F becomes 1 by 2 pi under root LC, right? And this frequency is called what? Resonant frequency, because at this frequency current in the circuit becomes maximum. So you can define resonant frequency as frequency at which current attains maximum value. This frequency is called resonant frequency, and at this frequency current in the circuit becomes minimum, and this when current is maximum, and at this frequency current in the circuit becomes maximum, and this condition is called series resonance condition. So a circuit is said to be in resonance condition when current in the circuit becomes maximum, and the frequency at which current becomes maximum is called resonant frequency. Its value is LC, F equal to 1 by 2 pi under root LC. So this is about resonance condition. Now after this there is sharpness of resonance or quality factor. So please take a screenshot of this one first. Now next is sharpness of resonance or quality factor. What is this sharpness of resonance? You know, at resonance current in the circuit becomes maximum. It is given by I max equal to E by R. It is dependent only on R. The total impedance of the circuit only depends on R. It is independent of L and C. And resonance frequency is given by omega R equal to 1 by root over LC. From this formula, it's clear that resonant frequency is independent of R. It depends only on L and C. It means for different values of R, resonant frequency is same. It's clear from this graph. A graph is drawn between current amplitude and angular frequency omega. From here you find that it is drawn for 3 different values of R. And for different values of R, resonant frequency is same. Omega is equal to omega R. For all the 3 graphs, omega R is same. It means maximum peak value for all the 3 curve is same. Okay, so resonant frequency is independent of R. It is given by 1 by root over LC. But the sharpness of these curves depends on R. Right now, sharpness depends on R. Okay, if R is low, for low value of R, curve is more sharp, high peak is there, it means sharp peak. And if R is very high, it means for high R, low peak is there. Low peak means flat curve is there. So this sharpness of this peak, sharpness of this resonance depends on R. But for different R, resonant frequency is same. So this sharpness of resonance is measured by a factor called Q factor or quality factor, and it is given by ratio of resonant frequency to the bandwidth. What is this bandwidth? Omega 2 minus omega 1, right? Okay, it will be more clear. Suppose graph is like this one. This is maximum, this one is omega R. On both sides of this resonant frequency, this current becomes 0 on both sides of this resonant frequency. The value at which this current becomes I naught by root 2. This is peak point. And the point at which the current becomes I naught by root 2, at that point you draw a line. And this line joins on the curve at 2 points, at one side omega 1 and another side omega 2. This is omega 1 and omega 2 on both sides of omega R. It gives bandwidth. This is omega 2 minus omega 1 on both sides of resonant frequency gives bandwidth. And if this bandwidth is higher for this high resistance curve, no? It is very flat, it means resonance is very low. Sharpness of resonance is very small. And if this bandwidth is very low, for this low resistance, bandwidth is also very small, it means quality factor is more, sharpness of resonance is more. So sharpness of resonance is measured by a quality factor, and it is equal to resonant frequency by bandwidth. Resonant frequency is same for all the graphs, but bandwidth is different for different. For low resistance graph, bandwidth is also low. For high resistance graph, bandwidth is also very high. Bandwidth is what? Frequency on both sides of the resonant frequency at which peak value becomes I naught by root 2, right? So this is the formula for quality factor, omega R equal to omega 2 minus omega 1. Hope you understood sharpness of resonance or quality factor. Sharpness of resonance is determined by quality factor. Its formula is this one, ratio of resonant frequency by bandwidth. One more thing, you can also write quality factor in terms of L and C. Quality factor in terms of L and R is given by omega R L by R. And it becomes equal to, if you put omega R is equal to 1 by root over LC, it becomes Q equal to 1 by R root over L by C. This is another formula for quality factor, and this formula is useful for numerical purpose also, right? So hope you understood sharpness of resonance or quality factor. Please take a screenshot of this one. Okay, next topic is LC oscillation. But before discussing LC oscillation, you must know about how much energy is stored by inductor and capacitor. In case of inductor, the energy is stored as magnetic energy. You know, whenever there is a change in magnetic flux linked with the coil, EMF is generated, and hence magnetic energy is stored in the inductor, and that magnetic energy is given by half Li square, right? Now in case of capacitor, the energy is stored as electrical energy between the plates of the capacitor, and that electrical energy is given by half Q square by 2C. So you must remember these two important points. In case of inductor, the energy is stored as magnetic energy, it is given by half Li square. And in case of capacitor, the energy is stored as electrical energy, and it is given by half Q square by C. Okay, so these two energy expressions are used in case of LC oscillation. So please take a screenshot of this one, then we will discuss LC oscillation. So next is LC oscillations. This LC oscillation is also very important topic, and in your syllabus only qualitative discussions is there. No need to calculate mathematically. So only qualitative discussions is in the syllabus. This topic is important, right? What is this LC oscillation? When a charged capacitor is allowed to discharge. Initially, capacitor is fully charged. Inside the capacitor, which type of energy is stored? Electrical energy. And when that charged capacitor is allowed to discharge through a non-resistive inductor, then what happens? That electrical oscillations of constant amplitude and frequency are produced in the circuit. That oscillations are called LC oscillations, right? L and C are connected, and the electrical energy is stored in the fully charged capacitor is converted into magnetic energy in the inductor. Again, that magnetic energy is converted into electrical energy in the capacitor. In this way, oscillation takes place inside the circuit, from electrical to magnetic, magnetic to inductor, and that type of oscillations produced inside the circuit, that electrical oscillations are called LC oscillations. So, and its frequency is 1 by 2 pi 1 by under root LC. We already discussed right now. Now how this takes place, LC oscillations when L and C are connected. Let us discuss with the help of these 8 diagrams, A, B, C, D, then E, F, G, H. Initially at time t equal to 0, suppose this capacitor is fully charged and it is not connected to inductor, circuit is open. It means no current flows through the inductor, right? So initially capacitor is fully charged, it has electrical energy stored in the between the plates of the capacitor as UC. You know UC is what? Q square by 2C. Now this time capacitor is fully charged. After this capacitor is connected to the inductor. Now what happened? The capacitor starts discharging, and discharge of capacitor, after that current starts flowing through the inductor, and as the capacitor starts discharging, current also starts changing, and due to change in current, magnetic flux linked with the inductor changes, and hence magnetic energy starts storing inside the inductor. After some time, when the whole this electrical energy stored in the capacitor is passed and converted into what? Magnetic energy in the inductor. At that time, capacitor is fully discharged. Initially it is charged, then when it is connected, capacitor starts discharging, and after some time the capacitor is fully discharged. It means now no current, more current flows through the inductor, and the whole electrical energy is converted into magnetic energy. Now after this, what happens in the next figure? D. Capacitor is fully discharged. So after discharge of the capacitor, now no more current flows through the inductor. Now according to Lenz's law, it always opposes the motion that produces it. Now no current flows through it. Now the current starts flowing in the same direction as the previous one, and current starts flowing in this direction, right, in figure D. After that, its magnetic energy starts decreasing, and again capacitor plates start charging, right? Now in this figure E, after some time, whole magnetic energy is converted into this electrical energy, and this time capacitor is fully charged, but the polarity of the plate is reversed. Initially this upper one is positive and lower one is negative. Now in this process, same, it is also charged and either plates are also charged, but the polarity of the plates are changed. Here lower one positive and upper one becomes negative. Now what happens? Again, when it is connected to inductor, current starts flowing from these positive plates towards the inductor, and again its electrical energy starts converting into magnetic energy, and after some time the capacitor becomes discharged and whole electrical energy is converted into magnetic energy. Here again, right, this time again capacitor is discharged. Then again, according to Lenz's law, the current starts flowing in the same direction, and after some time this end becomes positive and this end becomes negative. In this way, initial condition reaches. Initially the upper one is positive, lower one is negative. Now again after this process, charging, discharging, then again charging, then discharging, again the capacitor becomes fully charged. It means here law of conservation of energy is valid. Initially electrical energy is converted into magnetic energy, then that magnetic energy is converted into again electrical energy. In this way, oscillations are produced in the LC circuit, and that oscillations are called LC oscillations. Right now, when a charged capacitor is allowed to discharge through an inductor, electrical oscillations of constant amplitude and frequency are produced. Such oscillations are called LC oscillations, and frequency of the oscillation is given by 1 by 2 pi under root 1 by LC. In this way, in this you have to draw all these 8 figures starting from when the capacitor is fully charged, and again initially come back to its original position when again capacitor becomes fully charged. In this way, one cycle is completed. First energy flows in this direction, and after that it flows in this direction. Again starting position. Right now, in this way, LC oscillations is produced in the LC circuit. Hope you understood. After this, we'll move to the last topic of this chapter, that is transformer and generator. Now, next is transformer, and after that last topic AC generator. Power in an AC circuit and power factor is deleted for this year, so no need to study that topic, power in an AC circuit. So let us discuss this transformer. What is transformer? Transformer is a device which converts low voltage of high current into high voltage of low current and vice versa. It is an electrical device to convert high voltage into low voltage and low voltage into high voltage, right? So it is based on the principle of mutual induction. The basic principle of this transformer is mutual induction. You know what is mutual induction? When a changing current is flowing in one coil, then EMF is induced in the neighboring coil. So it is based on principle of mutual induction. It is of two types. One is a step up transformer, another one is a step down transformer. In a step up transformer, it converts low voltage into high voltage. It is a step up the voltage, and in this case number of turns in the secondary coil is greater than number of turns in the primary coil, right? This is structure for this step up transformer. Second one is a step down transformer. It is step down the transformer. It means it converts high voltage into low voltage, and to convert high into low, number of turns in the primary coil is greater than number of turns in the secondary coil. So you must know how to draw a step up transformer and how to draw a step down transformer. In a step up, number of turns in secondary coil is greater than number of turns in primary coil. In a step down, number of turns in secondary coil is less and number of turns in primary coil is more than number of turns in the secondary coil. AC is applied to a primary of this transformer and output is produced towards the secondary ends of this transformer, which is connected to the load. Now next, construction. Okay. It consists of two coils. One is primary and the one is secondary coil, and both are insulated from each other and both are wound over a soft iron laminated core. Okay. If you want more number of turns in the primary or secondary coil, then that coil is made up of thin copper wire, and if you want less number of turns in the coil, then that is made up of thick copper wire. Now how it works? Here input alternating voltage, which is input, right, it is applied to the primary of this transformer. Now due to this alternating voltage, magnetic flux in the core is developed, and this magnetic flux through this core reaches to the secondary of this coil. As due to this alternating voltage, magnetic flux linked with the secondary coil also changes and EMF is induced in the secondary of this coil. Now how you write the theory? Induced EMF in primary coil is what? EP equal to minus NP d phi by dt. Why minus sign is there? According to Lenz's law, direction of induced EMF or current is such that it opposes the change which produces it, right? So that's why negative sign is there. Now induced EMF or back EMF in the secondary coil develop is what? ES equal to minus NS d phi by dt, where NP is number of turns in the primary coil and NS is number of turns in the secondary coil. Now you divide these two equations, this becomes ES by EP equal to NS by NP. It means both are directly related. If number of turns in the secondary coil is more, then here more voltage is developed. If number of turns in the primary coil is more, then more voltage is at the primary coil. It means greater the number of turns, greater is the voltage induced at that point. Right now? Okay, please take a screenshot of this one. Then I will rub this side part. Okay, fast. Okay, shall I rub this side? Okay. Now for an ideal transformer, okay, I will use white chalk. For an ideal transformer, there is no loss of energy. So power input must be equal to power output. So input power must be equal to output power, right? What is input power? Suppose IP current is induced and flows through this primary coil. Power is what? V into I. So input power is primary coil EP IP, current in the primary coil, equal to secondary coil output power ES into IS. From here, ES by EP equal to what? This is IP by IS, and this ES by EP is also equal to NS by NP. This is transformer ratio. If ES is directly proportional to number of turns in the coil and it is inversely proportional to current, right? It means more voltage, it means current is less, and less voltage is this means current is more. So it is a device to convert high voltage of low current into low voltage of high current. Here current and voltage are inversely related, right? And number of turns and voltage are directly related. So you must remember this point. This point is very important, and in numericals this formula is used. So you must remember this formula. ES by EP equal to IP by IS, and this is equal to NS by NP. It means E and N are directly related, and this E and I are inversely related. Thus, a step-up transformer, a step-up the voltage, but also it decreases the current in the same ratio. And a step-down transformer, a step down the voltage, but also it increases the current in the same ratio. Right? Now, after this, there is efficiency of transformer. Efficiency of transformer. It means how much input is supplied and how much output is produced. So efficiency is denoted by this one output power by input power, and in percentage if you want to find, it is multiplied by 100. This is the formula for efficiency of transformer, right? Okay, one more thing, this ratio, this ES by EP equal to IP by IS equal to NS by NP is called transformer ratio. Transformer ratio. For numerical part, this formula is very important, right? So please take a screenshot of this one. Then we will discuss, there is a small topic in this transformer, that is energy losses in transformer, right? Next is energy losses in transformer. There are 5 main points in this case. You must just remember all these points. First is copper losses. What is this copper losses? There is a loss of energy in the form of heat when AC flows through the coil. And this loss of energy in the form of heat is only due to resistance of the coil. So this type of losses can be reduced by using a thick copper wire which has low resistance, right? This is copper losses. Just write 1 or 2 points. Next one is eddy current losses. Due to time varying magnetic field, eddy current is set up in the core of the transformer, and hence heat energy, excessive amount of heat energy is developed, and due to that in heat energy losses in the transformer, and this eddy current losses can be minimized by using a laminated iron core, right? Okay, next one is hysteresis loss. For a complete cycle of AC during magnetization and demagnetization, there is a loss of energy. That loss of energy is called hysteresis loss, and it can be minimized by using a material having low hysteresis loop or curve, so that less hysteresis loss takes place. Now, fourth one is magnetic flux losses. The total magnetic flux linked with the primary coil does not reach fully to the secondary coil, and in this way magnetic flux takes place. This is magnetic flux loss, and it can be minimized by binding the primary and secondary coil over one another, right? And last one is Hamming loss. In this way you have to write all these points, 5 points in energy losses in transformer, and write 1 or 2 about these lines, right? Copper losses, eddy current losses, hysteresis losses, magnetic flux losses, and Hamming loss, right? Please take a screenshot of this one. Then we'll discuss AC generator. Now, last topic of this chapter is AC generator. Previously, it was in chapter 6, that is electromagnetic induction, but according to the new syllabus, it is in chapter 7, that is alternating current. So, what is this AC generator? It is a device which converts mechanical energy into electrical energy, right? And on which principle it is based? It is based on principle of electromagnetic induction. What is electromagnetic induction? If a coil rotates continuously rotates in the magnetic field, then the flux linked with the coil changes, and due to change in magnetic flux linked with the coil, an EMF is induced in the coil, and due to which a current flows in the circuit, right? Hence, in this way, mechanical energy is converted. Mechanical energy means you are rotating the coil with the help of some handle. So that mechanical energy is converted into, with the help of principal electromagnetic induction, into electrical energy, right? So now next is its construction. It consists of four main things: armature, field magnet, slip rings and brushes. What is this armature? Armature is construction of AC generator. It is a rectangular coil ABCD having large number of turns, and it is wound over a soft iron core to increase the magnetic flux linked with the coil. Then second one is magnetic field. This rectangular coil is placed between the pole pieces of the magnet to produce strong magnetic field. Then slip rings, the ends of this armature is connected to two slip rings, R1 and R2, right? These slip rings are connected with the axis of this armature. It rotates with it. It means slip rings are movable. Now last one is brushes. There are two carbon brushes B1 and B2, and the two ends of the carbon brushes are connected to the external circuit in which current is to be supplied by the generator. So there are four main parts: armature, rectangular coil ABCD, and it is placed between the field magnet, right? And there are two slip rings attached to the two ends of the armature which are movable, and then carbon brushes which is stationary. It is connected to the external circuit in which the current is to be supplied, right? Now how it works: when this coil is continuously rotating in this magnetic field, now you know, due to rotation of the coil, the area of the coil changes, and when the area of the coil changes, magnetic flux linked with the coil also changes, and due to this change in magnetic flux, an EMF is induced in the coil, which produces current to flow in the circuit, right? So please take a screenshot of this one, then we will write its theory. Now its theory: let n be the number of turns in the coil, A be the area of coil, omega be the angular velocity with which this coil armature ABCD rotates, and B is magnetic field produced by the pole pieces of the magnet. Now as the coil rotates, the magnetic flux linked with the coil changes, and that magnetic flux is given by BA cos theta, where theta is the angle between this magnetic field and area vector A. Now this theta becomes what? Theta is equal to omega t. Omega is the angular velocity in time t. It covers how much? Theta, angular displacement, omega into t. So this phi becomes BA cos omega t. Now by Faraday's law, whenever there is change in magnetic flux, then that change in magnetic flux with time gives induced EMF. So E equal to minus d phi by dt. So minus d by dt, phi is what? BA cos omega t. When you differentiate this cos omega t, you get minus omega sin omega t. So this E becomes BA omega sin omega t. Minus minus becomes positive. Now if there are n number of turns in the coil, then this E equal to NAB omega sin omega t. Now what is the maximum value of this sin omega t? Either plus 1 or minus 1, both directions. So this, when this becomes plus 1, then maximum EMF is NAB omega. E max equal to, or you can write E naught equal to NAB omega. You put this value E naught here, then equation 1 becomes E equal to, in place of this one, you write E naught sin omega t. So this is EMF induced in the coil. And you know I is what? E by R. R is the resistance of the coil. So this, in place of you write E naught sin omega t by R, and this E naught by R you take I naught, maximum current, right? I naught is what? Maximum current, E naught by R. And then Due to this induced EMF, induced current in the circuit is I equal to I naught sine omega t. And from this expression of induced EMF and induced current, it is clearly that induced EMF and induced current changes their magnitude periodically, because here sine term is there. It means both induced EMF and induced current will change periodically. That's why in this way we get alternating current, those current whose magnitude and direction reverses periodically and its magnitude also changes, right? So in this way, AC generator is a device which converts mechanical energy to electrical energy. And what type of electrical energy? Not direct current. We will produce with the help of AC generator alternating current, right? So please take a screenshot of this one, right? So with this, I am going to end the class. Hope you like this one short revision. Please like, share, subscribe my channel. Okay students, so keep revising and stay tuned with this channel. Thank you.